Before we begin, I have a couple of things to tell you. First, I have written a cookbook that has just gone on sale. It's called Country Music's Greatest Eats. It's a collaboration with Southern Living Magazine and Country Music Television, CMT. And in it, I profile 30 country music stars and their favorite family recipes. I talk to legends like the Oak Ridge Boys and Wynonna Judd, as well as newer acts like the Zac Brown Band and Florida Georgia Line. Check it out. It's on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Speaking of Southern Living, I'm happy to announce that Authentic South is featured in the June 2014 issue of the magazine. They've got a huge story in there called The A to Z Guide to Southern Food, and they wrote about us in the I category. That's I for Indie Food Media. Be sure and show Southern Living some love and join the conversation at hashtag Southern Food Now. All right, on to the show.
Send me to the forest so that I can get some sleep. I'll make myself a bed of pine needles beneath the trees.
In the last episode of Authentic South, we met Sean Kelly, a writer who had set out to raise a couple of pigs for the sole purpose of butchering them himself. He was so adamant about that mission that he even named the pigs Lunch and Dinner. We had reached the point in the story where Dinner had grown to be over 300 pounds, and Sean was ready to slaughter her.
And so on the day in question, I gathered my friends together, my 4 foodie friends and myself, on this farm that we own in rural Alabama. And I borrowed my wife's gun. I find it not the least bit ironic that my wife, who's from Ohio, has a gun, and I'm from Alabama and don't. But that's our relationship, and that's okay. She has a small caliber pistol, a .38, similar in size and makeup to a .22 pistol. It had a clip and slide, and so I got the gun, and I practice fired it once just to make sure it would fire the day before, because the last thing you want to do is have a bunch of friends over to kill a pig and not be able to kill it, right? So I let Dinner out of the pen. I brought some food along and got her. She's in the garden, right, in the pool garden that we're talking about. I thought this was a great place. We'll bury the rest of her after we've split her up in the garden, and next year she'll be next year's tomatoes, right? And so I got her up. She started snuffling for acorns, and she was calm, and she was kind of placid. And I pulled back the lever on the slide on the gun, on the barrel of the gun. It was a little bit stiff, but I pulled it back, and I put the barrel up against the back of the pig's head, execution style, and pulled the trigger. Pow! Just big sound. I jumped. The pig jumped. My 4 foodie friends jumped. And for a moment, there was this feeling of success as the gunpowder wafted in the air. Except that Dinner was still standing. In fact, Dinner was still grazing for acorns. And I looked back, and my friends were all covering their mouths in shock. And I wasn't sure what had happened. Did I fire blank? Did I miss? I mean, the barrel was pressed up against the back of the pig's head. I didn't understand. And I'm sitting there going, what happened? And I looked down, and the gun's still in my hand. And I look at the pig, and there's this little hole behind its ear and this little trickle of blood going down. And I'm like, hell, it didn't do anything. It didn't kill her. It didn't even knock her out. And of course, again, she's still, looking for acorns. So I pulled the slide back on the barrel again, thinking, well, I better put another cap in her ass. Except that the bullet jammed in the gun, and then the gun kind of disintegrated in my hands, and the clip fell out, hit the ground, and the spring popped out. A bunch of hollow point bullets landed in the leaves in the ground, and the gun just kind of fell apart. And now I'm sitting here with this useless tool in my hand and a 350-pound pink pig named Dinner wandering my property with a bullet in its skull, and these 4 foodie friends standing there with their hands over their mouths, aghast at how bad this slow food project has gone. Their faith completely demolished in an instant. This moment of pork perfection had turned into a nightmare horror show of why people with food aspirations should not raise their own food. It was, without question, the most confusing and trying moment of my life to that point. Nothing had prepared me for abject failure quite like the inability to kill a pig.
So what do you do?
So okay, well, how do you kill a pig, right? So all my research comes flooding back in my mind. Well, go get the axe. So, I'd chosen the gun over the axe, the blunt end of an axe, because I saw myself swinging the axe and missing the pig and taking off my leg. If you haven't swung an axe much, it's not really easy. And I just saw bleeding and injury, and I thought for some reason a gun was far safer than an axe. I'm not sure why, but I did. So I went to our shed where our tools are to find the axe. And,
So pigs still eat grazing, and people are still standing around. I mean, do you turn the music up a little bit, let the party simmer while you go find the appropriate tool in the shed?
You look at your friends who are all aghast and go, hang on one minute, I'll be right back. I don't know what they thought, but I went to the shed looking for the axe, and I couldn't find it. I don't know where it was. I couldn't find a sledgehammer. I found a gravel shovel, which is basically a big flat shovel like a snow shovel. This one's metal. And I don't know what made me think that hitting the pig in the forehead with a gravel shovel was going to make a difference after shooting it in the back of the head made no difference whatsoever. But that's what I did. I took the shovel out, and much to my shame, I was more panicked than anything. I hit my pig dinner between the eyes with a shovel as hard as I could, to no effect. But now the pig was on to me. She knew something was up. Now she's looking at me with suspicion. She's like, oh, this is why you named me Dinner. This is what it's come down to. And so I couldn't get near the pig anymore. I actually went inside and got a knife, thinking maybe I could tackle her or skewer her in some way. I mean...
Was it a big knife?
It was an enormous knife. It was a knife like a scimitar. And you got to understand that in my mind, I have done what I feared I would do. I failed at the moment that I needed to be successful at. When you're raising an animal for food, you want to be judicious. You want the animal, you want to appreciate the animal. You think about Native Americans praying over the dead, departed soul. You think about hunters in the South especially. You think about hunters who painstakingly stalk animals that they've slightly misshot because they want to make sure the animal dies quickly and doesn't die painfully. That's what I wanted too. I mean, it's funny that the outcome was the opposite of what I desired. And it's humorous to talk about it, but it was horrifying. It wasn't just horrifying because I had these 4 friends, foodie friends, standing there. It was horrifying because I felled this animal. I raised this animal from a small animal to a large animal. And all I asked of her was to provide food for my family. And for me to help her do that in as painless a way as possible. And this was not painless. In fact, this was horrifyingly brutal. And so I chased her around a little while with a knife and finally figured that the only person that was going to get skewered was me. So I swallowed my pride and did the only thing I could do as a southern-born male. I called my northern wife out of the house and had her put the gun back together, which she did, with that look on her face that said, "How did you screw this up?" And then she went back in the house, and instead of shooting the pig behind the other ear, I shot the pig right between the eyes, and she fell right over. And we cut her throat and bled her out, and the rest of the day was perfect. Pig perfect. We were able to butcher her. We were able to, part her into many pieces. We were able to make tons of sausage. That night, I soaked 2 tenderloins in apple cider And the next day we grilled them out front, and it was perfect. She gave up 200 and something pounds of meat, beautiful meat. I learned a ton of things. First, I learned that use a bigger caliber weapon next time, which I did. When we killed lunch a few weeks later, I used a 357 Magnum, and she went right over and was dead within a few moments. I learned something about life that I wanted to learn in this project. We romanticize butchers and kosher kills, and we romanticize how our meat gets to us. We think that there's that these animals are all killed humanely, that their comfort and care has been considered. It's why foodies go out and seek organic meat or seek food from people that they know, right? It's why people are more comfortable buying meat broken into packages than they are buying or eating meat that has its head still on it, right? But when you kill an animal, I honestly believe this, you realize for the first time that there's no such thing as a humane kill. There are some kills that are more humane than others, and I think I've proven that I'm not good at killing an animal in the most humane method. But I think what was an important lesson for me to learn, and a very important lesson for me to learn, was that death is not the natural state of a living animal. It does everything it can to fight death. And as a result, you have to be very good at kill an animal without suffering being a big factor in it. Because, killing an animal isn't easy. Even when you got it all figured out. Killing something's hard.
Cause I've been surrounded by buildings that stretch wide, overtaking my horizon in the dark of the night sky, with lights that flicker endlessly, but I have nothing to say. Which way is your world turning today?
So you've scratched the curiosity for animals or for pig, but as we began this conversation, you called yourself a curious person. My last question for you is, what is next for you?
I think it's a still. I honestly believe that at some point in my future, when I can figure out how to sneak one past the wife, because there's no way she's going in on this, I'm going to build a still. I just don't think I'll get permission from my wife to build one. I think she recognizes that it's illegal, and that there might be some jail time involved with getting caught, and that has her a bit worried about it. There was really no potential jail time with the pigs. An illegal still? Maybe. Maybe not.
We won't tell.
Don't tell Patty. She doesn't need to know about my plans. It doesn't end well. Don't tell my wife.
'Cause I've been surrounded by buildings that stretch wide, overtaking my horizon in the dark of the night sky, with lights that flicker endlessly, but I have nothing to say. Which song is your world singing today?
Once again, many, many thanks to Sean Kelly. If you happen to miss the beginning of his story, you really have to go back and listen to part 1 of the episode called To Eat a Pig. The special music today is by Red Leg Husky, an Americana folk band based in Boone, North Carolina. To hear more, go to redleghusky.com. And to see pictures of Sean and the pig named Dinner, and to hear more episodes of the show, click on over to AuthenticSouth.com. You can also hear us at WFAE.org, Public Radio Exchange, and on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and SoundCloud. Until we go south again, thanks for listening.